So often we hear people say, I quit drinking and I didn't even know who I was anymore. For a lot of us, alcohol was a huge part of our identity. When we gave it up, we had to find new hobbies and get honest about what we like and don't like. We had to stop being what we thought everyone wanted us to be and start being true to ourselves. Stay tuned for a conversation about taking off the masks, finding our true selves, and learning how to be authentic.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and that recovery isn't just rewarding, but it's also a lot of fun. We're your hosts, Steve and Julie. Listen as we get together with friends to shed light on the hard things, talk about the other side of addiction, and how we create a life so full, there's no space left for alcohol.
Before we jump into this week's conversation, we want to let you know about an exciting new addition to the Through the Glass community. We have created a private Facebook group specifically for our listeners. It's a place where we can all share the connection we know is so vital to a thriving recovery. You can find it at facebook.com/groups/Through the Glass Recovery, or just search Through the Glass Recovery on Facebook and you'll find us. All right. Hey, everybody. And welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast. So happy to have you guys all here and so grateful to our listeners for hanging out with us today. This is episode 65, which I think is just awesome. It's so cool to see that number climbing, and it's been such an amazing ride. We have three fantastic guests with us tonight, and we'll do introductions first. Matt, I'm going to let you start since you have been here before.
Hello. Yes, this is my second time on. I was on the first episode of this season 2. So not much has changed. Yes, my name is Matt. I am now 9 months sober. I celebrated that on Sunday. So, Yep. Keep moving forward with things. I'm from upstate New York, town of Burnt Hills. I got 2 young kids, and that pretty much keeps my time pretty busy with things. So, yeah, glad to be here again.
Right on. Good to have you.
Really cool. Thanks for being here. And that episode, the first episode of season 2, is, as of now, the most popular episode we have ever released. So it was a really good one. Really glad you were on that with us.
Yep.
And so next we will go with Marci.
Hi, guys. I'm Marci. I am 8 years sober. And I just celebrated October 4th, 8 years. And I am the host of a talk show called Wake Up with Marci. And that airs in New York, in New Jersey, parts of Connecticut, and I'm in other parts of the United States. I released a book last year called Chaos to Clarity, Seeing the Signs and Breaking the Cycles. So sobriety has taken me on a beautiful course, and I'm now doing public speaking along with a lot of other things and trying to help others. So thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. That sounds like all kinds of inspiring work you're doing. So really excited to hear all of that.
That's awesome.
Our sobriety recovery community needs people doing all of that. It's really neat.
Yeah.
And last but not least is Trevor.
Hi, my name is Trevor Keveloh. I am 5 years, 8 months, and some change sober. I've taken a more active approach to actual recovery this past year. I'm originally from Chicagoland. I've spent 7-8 years in Los Angeles, a year in Austin, and in the past year and a half or so, I've been on the road. I'm actually a stand-up comic, a writer, producer. I have a small independent comedy brand, and I'm in Phoenix now. This is where I'm kind of landing. So, thank you for having me.
Right on.
Really cool. Yeah, I need to check out some of your comedy stuff. That is really neat. And I just want to remind our listeners that we will have links for all of our guests in our show notes and on social media. So make sure you guys get in touch with them and check out all of their stuff. So often our conversations on this podcast result in someone saying, I didn't even know who I was. When we are drinking, we lose our identity completely, or our authentic identity gets replaced by one that revolves around drinking and unhealthy habits. It's a common feeling for people who are in recovery to feel like they have no idea who they are, what they enjoy doing, who they enjoy spending their time with, and their values, and what they really believe. Is this something that you guys have experienced? How have you managed to find yourself now that you're sober? And what has that process looked like for you? And anybody is welcome to start, and we'll just jump in and have a conversation.
Light it up.
Marci here. I totally resonated with this when you guys shared the topic. I really didn't have any idea. I completely had lost myself through drinking, even though I was working and I ended up getting married and having children. But I honestly didn't know at the core of myself who Marci was. I remember one night I was out and I was drinking, partying with friends, and my husband was home with kids. And I was like, I can't even be myself with my husband, and I realized now that I'm sober that I just had completely lost myself in my trauma and then my drinking, and I didn't even know who Marci was. And so once I stopped drinking and my mind started clearing up, instead of just having my family and the things I was trying to do to validate myself, I started being able to dig deeper and see things that I was interested in. And, I wanted to soak up knowledge. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, when I went on vacation, it was all about where were we going to drink in the afternoon, being by the pool, drinking, or on the beach, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And now, right? So now when I go on vacation, it's like soaking in the culture, asking the questions, really taking in wherever I am and just expanding on just growth. And that's where, the fact that I'm interviewing people and interested in other people's stories, like, I could give a crap less. I'm going to be honest, way back when, I was just always like, poor me, victim Marci. And so it was really hard for me to care too much or know how to take down the walls and connect with people, really. And so I have just found through sobriety, so many interests that I have and just wanting to expand on who I am and the growth that's possible and how wonderful and beautiful life really is without masking and clouding myself with a drink. And instead of masking myself and just diving into a bottle of wine, I'm diving into connecting with people and reading and understand how the brain works and sobriety and how we can rewire our brains and just so many incredible things to learn about. And that's where I finally feel like I'm in touch with myself. And the biggest thing was finding that self-love for myself. So I know I'm kind of rambling on, but I hated myself. And I think once I figured out that I am pretty lovable and I love myself and how great that can be, I got to opened up a whole world for me.
It really does. It really does open up one big, giant, massive world that I know from my perspective, never really knew existed. It was there, staring me in the face somewhere in the minutia of the world, right? In what I was doing. It was just impossible to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. So I think it's really awesome to be able to wake up every day with a clear mind and, just look at life and every day as an opportunity, and that to be grateful for each moment instead of just trying to just pull yourself up out of it for the day and just get through it instead of looking for the next glass of wine or, lunch so I can go drink or whatever the case may be. It's really fantastic to start to learn who I am, that person I lost when I was 6 years old. Like all the trauma and all the crap just kept chipping away at who I was. Yeah.
My identity was alcohol based, and it was what everyone told me I was. It was what my identity was. It was, Steve likes this. Steve likes to go fishing. Steve likes to play hockey. And I mean, I do, but Steve likes spaghetti. Like, this is what you like. You like this. You know, just because I ate it 3 times and said, it was good, it's now my favorite food. Oh, I guess it's my favorite food. Like, that's the stuff that I digested. And that's the stuff that I made my identity. So these were the things I did, obviously, because everyone else said I was good at them. Like that was the, the validation that I got from that. So those must be the things that I do. Those must be the things that I like. Just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I like it. Something I learned now in this journey. I'm 2 years, 7 months sober. And it's like, you talk about the mask, right? It's like, let's rip this one off and see what's underneath. Now it's almost like a gift. It first it hurt. Like I struggled with the struggle, right? It was like I'm struggling with this struggle, and it was hard. Now I just struggle. It's a little bit different, but that's okay. The struggle is fine, but not being stuck behind the mask of what everyone else tells me I'm supposed to be. And really, Julie?
I was just going to say, you hit something on the head there for me. And that's like, I thought I liked things just because I was good at them. I loved the validation and the affirmation and people telling me that I was good enough, that I was worthy, all of those things. And so those are the things I did. And God, I did them well, right? If I was good at something, I was going to take it like all the way to the limit and milk it for all of the compliments that it was worth, because I had no internal self-worth. So I was just fishing for it everywhere. When I stopped doing that, every hobby, I had to really ask myself, do I actually enjoy doing this? Or am I just doing this because people tell me how good I am at it? Or, there was just so much of that questioning. And at first I couldn't even answer that question. I didn't even know. Like for over a decade, I've grown this massive garden. Grow all the food that my family eats in a summer. And I'm good at it. I'm really good at growing food. And I worked at it like 3 or 4 hours a day. And I was really proud of it because people would tell me how great I was for that. The first year I quit drinking, I didn't play in the garden. And I didn't really miss it. And that was shocking to me because I always thought that was this thing that I loved so much. Like it was a huge part of my identity. And when I didn't plant a single seed, I didn't feel like anything was actually missing in my life. And that's when I realized I needed to really look at every hobby and everything I do. Gosh, even the way that I dress, right? Do I dress for other people or do I dress because it makes me feel good about myself? It's just such a discovery process. And it's a beautiful one. But I think it's a long, slow process too.
What do you got, Matt?
Yeah, I gotta say, excuse me. So like the last day and a half thinking about this, I've had a lot of thoughts, a lot of different directions with things. So obviously 9 months sober, been doing a lot of reflecting, kind of where I was, where I got, where I am. And it got me actually, when I first read this topic, when I actually was first introduced to you guys on Instagram, there was a video, and I'll just briefly rip through the quote here, or what Julie said, and it said, when people quit drinking, one of the first things they think of is, I can't wait to get back to the person I was before I had a drinking problem. Reality is you're never going to be that person again. You're growing, you're moving forward, you're evolving, and you're on your way to becoming someone you can't even imagine yet. And I remember when I heard that, and I was like, whoa, like, first thing I ever shared that you guys had posted. I'd never thought about that before. And I think I was like maybe a month, 2 months sober at the time. And I was like, yeah, it made me think, but I didn't understand it until recently. It is. It's very much a spot that I am right now that I still am finding myself like day in, day out. It's, things that I used to like to do. Nope. Doesn't do the same thing for me anymore. For me, you really talked about the garden. For me, hunting season's coming up and it's just kind of like, okay, it's coming up, but do I want to do it? And really, like, hunting and drinking weren't things that went hand in hand. It's nothing even like that, but it's something that, I was a hunter, but I don't know if I want to do that anymore, at least right now. But then also, other kind of thoughts I've had in the last, day with this is kind of looking back and talk about losing yourself, hit critical points in my life. And I can see now where I lost parts of myself over, not the last 5 years when it became obvious to everybody that I had a drinking problem, but even before then, when I knew it was a problem, but, I could still justify it, was doing everything I was supposed to do. And I had, quote, my stuff together still, but I was losing myself while I was still trying to do all those other things that was expected of me, and everybody was like, oh, every time I've gone to treatment, people are like, oh, you're so hard on yourself. It was like, finally I'm to the point where it's like, I can look at that person that I was and, the feelings I have now about, like, really like the shell of who I became, it's
Feels empty, doesn't it?
empty. I don't want to say sad.
It's lonely.
I don't like to say that. Like, yeah, it's just, it's a hard thing to explain because I'm grateful for everything I went through. As painful and as horrible as it was, I'm grateful I went through it. Do I want to relive it? No. Two completely different things, but it's just, I don't know. I can't find the right word to describe it there. I'm kind of losing my train of thought with it, but until a month ago, I couldn't sit in a room by myself and just be okay. And I'm finally to that point, and I think I had to reach that point to kind of start to, move to this next step of finding who I am. Before, it was so much of, depending on who I was with, I had to play a role. And it was a role based off of what I thought people knew about me, what they have heard about me, and what had I told these people before. All these things. As soon as I went in a room, it's like my mind was all over the place, trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, find where I fit in as my role, survive.
Yeah. That's a great way to explain that.
And like I said, I had 8 months and I don't even remember where I was, but I was somewhere and I was like, wow, I'm good. Like, it was the biggest relief to just be in this place and not care. I knew that I was okay. No matter what people knew, what they had seen, what they had heard, whatever it was, I was okay. And I think that's been a huge point, like I said, for me now to, I'm not going to say reinvent myself, but I feel like, that is what it is. It's
like you start creating your sober self, right?
Right. I refuse to believe that I went through all this for just getting sober. As crazy as it sounds, I feel like it has to be something bigger. I mean, you guys started this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been to treatment. Been very fortunate with the help that I've received. And I just feel like that I have something that I can give and help other people with. And maybe that's my next step of discovering of who I am with this process of, recovery. But until I was able to be okay, truly okay, not that when we're still drinking or, active use, yeah, I'm okay, but truly okay, sit in a room, know who I was, know who I am. Till I was able to do that,
Matt is getting to meet Matt again.
Right. There you go.
I remember that feeling, and it's so cool to hear you describe it.
It does.
Because I remember laying on my bed, talking on the phone, and saying out for the first time, I'm okay with me. Like, and it sounds so small, but when you experience that for the first time, it is absolutely life-changing, right? So it's really neat to hear you describe it because that's where you are right now. It's really cool.
Really neat. Trevor?
Hello. Yeah, I feel that. I've for 20 plus years, I ran bars and nightclubs in Chicago, stuff in Vegas. I worked in a very, very chaotic, wild industry for a long time. I was always kind of associated and addressed as like the party boy, the guy that knew how to drink, the guy that could drink, the guy that put together parties, that kind of thing. I never knew how to just be myself or just be. I always knew I was a decent guy, but I treated myself like crap for a long time because low self-worth, I'm never going to be anything more than a bar manager, a bar, whatever, a bartender at times. It was, I had a low self-esteem about that, but I had high expectations for myself that I could never really achieve or get to. And I always knew that, I guess it was subconsciously, unconsciously, I felt that was the thing that was in the way, but I was too scared to let that go because that was this kind of like persona I created, this personality of like the guy with the cool mohawk that ran around and did shots with everybody at a big bar I used to run, or I was in Vegas all the time for work and I was working with professional athletes and stuff like that. So it was like I got stuck in this very it wasn't toxic, but it was like this party. And I tell people that anytime I went out, it was like a night in Vegas for me. I couldn't just go out and have a good time. I had to go out and it was like it had to be an extreme. It had to be, 15 drinks, 15 shots, that type of thing. I was a blackout drinker. I blacked out, like I tell people, like 1,000 times in my life. And I never really figured out who I was, but I knew I wasn't a bad guy. And I would say that to myself after a rough weekend or week or whatever it was of that stuff. And I was too scared to uncover who I was or who I, at the time, because I had this personality I created, this trait of being the guy that knew how to party and drink and all that. And I was just I call it scared of the darkness. I had a very, very rough childhood, a lot of abuse, older brothers. We were all pretty physical with each other, but my dad was pretty rough. And that's something I finally discovered through not just, I have an opinion of sobriety versus recovery. You could be sober, you can even go to meetings, but when you're not actively trying to recover from stuff and work through your stuff, it's like you're just kind of maintaining sobriety and just not drinking, which is the ultimate goal. One day at a time, just don't drink. But this past year I took on, when I hit my 5 years earlier this year, I really took an active approach to recovering and to trying to pinpoint these things and get through these things through meditation, through life coaching, through a lot of personal growth. And it's been amazing. And I finally am like, okay, I am a good guy. I'm not the guy I was 20, 30, obviously, as we said, 20, 30 years ago when I started drinking, excessively. I don't want to be that guy. And I was a young dude. I was a young man, like, had it up my ass kind of thing. Now I'm like very content. I'm able to sit in a place and be completely cool and be okay with things. And the thing I've noticed recently is I'll have an insecure thoughts kind of like, I call them creep up on me, but the insecure feelings aren't there. Like I don't have this feeling of I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. This person won't like me. I don't, for me and my business, it's like this crowd's not going to like me. It's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do really good. And if they don't like me, they don't like me. It is what it is. I'm okay with that. But it's these thoughts that kind of come in my head, and I tell people I fight them off now. I have the ability to shut it down and feel like that's the old way of thinking. The I don't want to say the mind of an addict, but it's like the insecurity of not being good enough, not being funny enough, not being good looking enough, fast enough, whatever it was. And that's something I really have taken, I've accepted is like, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel totally useless, and there's times where I want to feel like that, but I've gotten to the point in my life where being a person of value is so much more important than being a person of success. I was successful in careers I've been in and things I've done, but I wasn't there. I wasn't present. I was not able to be there for people, for friends, for family. And most importantly, right now in my life, people struggling with sobriety that are in and out of recovery or mental health in general. That's something I've really been putting more of my focus and attention on, is helping the next person, because I know how dark and awful it can be when you're in the depths of your addiction, or when you're in recovery and you feel like you have nowhere to go or no one to talk to. There's always someone there. There's a meeting you can go to. There's a book. There's online help. There's so many avenues that you can hit now. For 20, 30 years ago, people in recovery really didn't have as many outlets to go to. Now we have so many. We go, like, this is how we all met here is through Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10 years ago, it really wasn't that big of a thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Recovery culture is just blown up because of COVID's done an amazing job of creating a massive online space for recovery, because it was forced.
Yeah.
If you wanted to recover and you needed connection somehow, or you were looking to talk about your problems or whatever that was, regardless of the program that you're in or not in, for that matter, there is so much out there, and there's so many people out there that are just willing to listen and lend an ear. Or, I mean, neither of us practice a program, but the program is recovery, right? It's just a matter of it's personal growth. It's all of those things. That's all that personal growth is self-discovery. It's like, what part, like all of the things about me, how do I play a role in this life with this new experience that I read in this book? What can I do with it? And it's that internal reflection that I never used to do. I never used to care. I didn't even know what that was. I couldn't even look beyond the mask. It was a lot like you said, Trevor. Just, what do you need to do or as Matt said, that what do you need to do to fit into the room?
Yeah.
Right? It's really what it was.
Do you guys, Trevor, you were talking about insecurity, and do you guys find that the more you get in touch with your authentic self versus the version of you everybody else wanted you to be, that you just feel less insecure? Because I feel like that has happened for me, and I wonder if that happens for other people too, because I'm so much more comfortable in my own skin now, and I'm not worrying constantly what everybody thinks of me. I mean, it obviously that comes and goes, right? I'm not completely fixed, but do you guys find that too? Like, the more authentic you are, the more confident and secure you feel?
1000%, without a doubt. I feel that it's the more I am myself, the more I'm going to attract people that actually enjoy the person that I really am, rather than the person that I'm trying to be, or the guy at the bar that can give you free drinks or buys you free drinks, or knows somebody that can get you free drinks, or whatever it is. I feel way better. I love it. And I'm older now too. I was 45 years old. I started my party days as a young dude, and that was fun. Now it feels really good. And for me personally, like I said, it's being of service to other people in any way I can, as a friend, a family member, a partner, whatever it is that I'm doing, in whatever, facet of my life, I can show up all the time. And I'm not going to be 100% all the time. You just can't. But I'll be there, and I'll do everything I can within reason to help you and to be that person. But yeah, I think it's the best thing is being your, like you said, your most authentic self, because then you attract the right people, not just people, and that has been huge for me.
People in alignment with who you are, right? Yeah. Marci, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
Well, my security was my drink. And so I had to dig really deep to find my, my self-worth, and to know that I'm much better than that person that just needed to drink to show up and be funny. And, everything was on the outside. I mean, I just felt like I was the shell of a person, and then I was just pouring this alcohol in me to fill every void that I had. And so once I quit drinking, and it's so great to hear Matt talk, because it's taking me back, you had to, I had to squash the demons and all the thoughts in my head, and like figure out a new way of thinking. And it was through, for me, the 12 steps to really find and heal that trauma so I could peel back the layers and find myself again. And just through my spiritual growth and learning gratitude and just finding what really fills my cup, so that I can then help to fill others' cup. Like that's the mission in life. And that's what you find when you're doing this process. It's like you're forced to step out of yourself, and you realize that doing things for others is the true fulfillment. And that's what, my higher powers led me to do. And all of us, that seems that's kind of the common thread, which is so beautiful, that we move from that selfish place of just everything's me, and drink, and where can I get to the next one? And I'm the life of the party. And that's what makes people like me, or I thought, to getting to this place of figuring out who the hell I am, and realizing that I'm pretty great, and I don't have to have a guy or a drink validate me.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Trevor, you mentioned this, but this is for everyone. The uncovering who I was, scared of uncovering who I was. You mentioned that, and that hit a button for me, because I know for me, there was the being scared of change, but there was the being scared of committing to actually something that I silently liked, because then I was going to be judged for it or teased for it, because that was my past, right? Like judged for it, teased for it, made fun of, all of that. And I wasn't prepared, or I didn't think I was prepared to be able to handle that. So the question is, how did that feel to you? Like when you started actually uncovering those things and then exposing you, how did that feel?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, sure.
I'm asking all of us.
Whoever
You, buddy.
Go for it.
Well, it's scary, because I started moving past a lot of fears and struggles that I had, and so I guess for me it was very uncomfortable, because it's the fear of failure, really, for me. But it also, it kept, with each step, it just kept making me stronger. And I used to be, even though I seemed so strong on the outside because I'd built up so many walls, I was such a weak person and just riddled with fear, even though people didn't see that. But as I started, trying and doing things that were different, it was uncomfortable, but with each step, it just gave me more power too.
Yep. It's very empowering.
I love this question. If I go back to who I thought I was, or who I was pretending to be, right? This big facade that I put on, I was like super mom, and everybody thought I was perfect, and everybody thought my kids were perfect, and everybody thought my life was perfect, and the horses and the cows and the goats, and it's like idyllic, right? To stop looking perfect and start letting people see all of my flaws and all of my failures and all of my struggles was so scary and so hard. I avoided the feeling of rejection or of being judged or of disappointing someone with everything I had in me. And when I decided to start showing up authentically, I had to show up and let people judge me or disappoint them, and it's really a scary thing to do. I found a lot of real connection when I started showing up as that person. The people that were going to judge me or reject me or be disappointed in me, I realized didn't really have a place in my life anyway. So my life is, I don't know, it's cleaned up a lot as far as the people that deserve space here now. But it was really scary to put myself out there and let that part of myself be seen. Posting on Facebook, where I used Facebook just to make sure everybody knew how great I was and how perfect my life was for so long. Posting on Facebook at a year sober, announcing that I was a year sober. That just threw a wrench in everybody's picture of me, right? But the people that mattered stuck around and congratulated me and still accepted me even with all of these flaws. And it's been a really cool adventure and like a major path of discovery to become that person. And I'm so much more comfortable and I'm not hustling all the time now trying to make it look perfect. And it's amazing.
I love letting go of the perfectionism. I mean, I can relate to that so much. And yeah, everyone thought everything was perfect. And I try to make it all look perfect because it just, then if I didn't make it look perfect, then I don't know, it was just going to be exposed for the real me. But once I let that go, God, life got it actually got so much easier and more fun.
Exactly.
It's so much easier to remember the truth, right?
Yeah.
Well, and you're not hustling. It's so nice to let go of the hustle, right? And just, if I misstep or I misspeak or I look like a fool or walk out of the bathroom with toilet paper on my shoe or whatever, it's not this horrifying thing where I'm like, oh my God, what does everybody think? I'm just like, I'm human. It's just different.
Matt, you look like you're thinking.
Like a couple thoughts this one. I mean, I never really worried about like painting that perfect picture because by the time like my drinking became known, I was already just in survival mode for me. That's where I was. It was, if I had to be somewhere, it was, okay, I drank enough before I'm going to be able to get through it until it's done so I can drink again. I wasn't worried about this perfect picture of myself or anything like that. So where I am now, I show up, I haven't drank, I'm not drinking, I'm good. Don't care what you think. I mean, it is that simple. I know I'm showing up, I'm sober. If we're doing something, got to get something done, we're going to get it done. And I'm there. So yeah, I really haven't experienced too much of that feeling of anxiousness or fear. Like I said, I correction me, I guess, within the last month before I could say I'm okay. I had a ton of that stuff, but where I am now, no, it really doesn't affect me.
That's awesome. I'm gonna tell you guys a funny story. So I'm listening to you talk, Julie, and you talk about like showing up authentically and stuff like that, and showing your flaws and all of those things, and we're talking about some of the theme that's here is like attracting your own people. So Julie and I met online in recovery meetings, and she will tell you, and I will tell you, that had we have met in person, we would have just walked past each other, right?
Yeah.
Because we both said, like, you're not a person that I would have normally, just by looking at you, I would have really never have associated. You wouldn't have been someone I would have had a conversation with.
Yeah. Well, I'm like a hippie farm chick, right? And Steve's all like, I don't know, not hippie. So different. We never ever would have connected if we had met in person. Not at all.
And it's not not that at all, right? So I'm going to wrap this up now because I think we did great. Trevor, you talked about once you get to start showing your authentic self, you start attracting your people, right?
Yep.
And that was kind of where I was going with that story, right? We would have completely passed each other at a different time in our lives, but at this time, regardless of how different we are, right, we were able to connect and form a fantastic friendship because of it. And so you attract your people. She's one of my people. You guys are one of my people. And not everyone is going to be that person. You're not going to be friends with everyone, just like you said, Trevor. But the people that you are going to be really important, and they're going to be those people that matter, the ones that hang around. We talked about just because I'm good at something, it doesn't mean I like it. Definitely everyone shared on that one. Losing parts of yourself over time and doing all the things that other people expected of us. Over time, I don't feel like I just lost my identity in one fell swoop. It was this chipping away of this person that I was to become everything, to fit in, to be a part of the group without really belonging. Matt, you talked about finding your role in the environment you were in just to survive, and we all shared experiences on that. Low self-worth is attached with a loss of who we are. That was a common theme that we talked about tonight here too. And being a person of value instead of success. Trevor, I really liked that one. You and both Marci talked about serving others and finding the ultimate value in that, right? So when you find yourself, you really start attracting your people. So I want to say thank you, Matt. Thank you, Marci. And thank you, Trevor, for finding some time to spend with us tonight and sharing your stories and your experiences. Really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To our listeners, thanks for being here. We're so happy to share this journey with you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow Through the Glass Recovery so that you don't miss future episodes, like the one next week about dealing with regret after you get sober.